All right, lads. Here's the plan. When I raise my revolver and blow this whistle, you will, bayonets affixed, climb over this wall and out of this trench, and in an orderly fashion, walk across this massive field of barbed wire, poison gas, and exploding artillery towards those machine gun nests which will be firing high-caliber rounds at high rate of speed towards your vulnerable bodies. Any questions? No? Good. All right. Here we go.
Back, and I've got another build to show you guys. So as you may have gotten a little bit of a hint from the intro, this one is a trench watch build, and I think it turned out really fantastic. A lot of creativity kind of went into this, not to toot my own horn, but toot. All right, sorry, that was weird, but a little bit of background about trench watches. These really were the first wristwatches commonly worn by men in the world. Prior to that, wristwatches had existed, were largely worn by women, although even there, I think the popularity wasn't extensive. A lot of times women wore their watches on a pendant, or what would be called a pendant watch. World War I saw the first demand for wristwatches by men. Usually you would see an officer, instead of having a pocket watch, although pocket watches were quite ubiquitous in the trenches as well, but being able to strap your watch to your wrist provided a certain level of convenience and not having to constantly be wary of where your watch was in your pocket. Obviously maneuvers had to be timed and all those kinds of things, so that provided a certain level of convenience. And because of the ubiquitousness of the wristwatch amongst mostly British officers during the First World War, when they came back to the civilian world, those of them that made it back, got quite used to wearing them and started wearing them regularly, leading to a general popularity of wristwatches among men in the civilian world that ultimately got us to where we are today. Now, there is a common myth about the trench watch, and that is that these the cases were actually pocket watch cases that jewelers or the wearer themselves would solder some wire lugs on themselves, kind of with a bit of ingenuity, turning these into wristwatches, and that is simply not the case. These the trench watches were manufactured as wristwatches from the beginning. They did, in fact, use ladies' pendant watch movements initially. That is true, but the myth that they were just pocket watches that people soldered lugs onto is just not a reality. And in fact, there were developments in wristwatches going back into I believe, the late 1800s. But I digress. So, what is it that I'm holding here? Okay, a little bit of background on this specific watch. This actually is, or started out as a genuine trench watch. I purchased the whole watch. It had a lovely porcelain dial. It was an unbranded watch with a column escapement. The movement looked pretty darn clean, and I thought I'd grab it and see if I could get it running. And I learned pretty quickly that I just didn't have the source for the escapement that was needed, and I didn't really know where to look for one, nor had I ever worked on a column escapement, and I didn't want to kind of go down a rabbit hole that I wasn't going to crawl back out of. So I changed gears, and I decided that I would see if this case could be the basis for a Seiko mod. And it turned out that it actually had plenty of room to house a NH36 movement. The stem lined up perfectly for to be able to fit the dial. It was off to the races from there. Just to kind of give you an idea what I actually had to do, I had to actually remove the plastic holding ring altogether off of the NH36. So the movement is actually held by an under dial, so to speak, a base dial that sits beneath what you see. It is screwed directly to the movement with the screws that typically hold down the portion that holds the calendar works. As you can see, there's no calendar, but there is in the regular movement, there is a special clip, so to speak, that holds down the calendar in place. So I replaced that essentially with a dial, an under dial that holds the movement from the top. So the movement is suspended from the top of the case. And then I made this dial that you see here. It's made out of paper. So what I actually did, and this is something you can do yourself, I recommend experimenting with this. I designed the trench dial basically based off the dial that was in the watch originally. The one in the watch originally was unbranded and did say, I think, 15 joules on the bottom half. So I designed it based off of that. I printed it out on regular white paper. And then what I did was I sprayed the paper with your regular clear coat spray paint. Just a regular glossy clear spray paint. What that does is it gives the paper this kind of enamel-like appearance. And obviously it will also protect it from any kind of deterioration. The one caveat here is that when you spray paper, regular white paper, with a clear coat, it makes it translucent. So in order to have the dial be not translucent, I sprayed the back of it with white spray paint. So it's covered in spray paint on both sides. Back white, front is the clear high gloss coat, which I put several coats of on here. Then the next bit is basically I put the luminous paint in the numbers, and then I aged it with a bit of alcohol marker. I have a set that's various skin tones, and it worked well. Though, interestingly enough, these hands, these cathedral hands that I got, I used, this is the same color marker that I used for both the indices, the number indices, and the hands, and for some reason it comes out just a bit more saturated and darker in the hands. I don't know if it's just that the luminous material in the hands somehow absorbs or doesn't absorb the pigment the same way. In any case, I tried a few ways to see if I could match it a little bit better. It didn't pan out beyond what I got, and I'm happy with the end. So that's the gist of how I accomplished the dial. And then the dial is basically attached with your regular dial dots, double-sided adhesive, and stays in place very nicely. As I said, the stem lined up very well with the hole in here, and this is the original crown, which I was able to attach. The actual thread size on the crown was a little bit bigger than the thread on the stem, and I literally just used JB weld to kind of I centered it, but to fit it and hold it in place. Now this would be the button in the original to operate the hand setting, and obviously it's totally non-operational here. Now, as you can imagine, this watch is not particularly water resistant, and by particularly, I mean it's not at all resistant whatsoever. But this is that's the nature of how these were. Most, well, I don't know if most, but many trench watches were not very water resistant. There were a few case manufacturers, in particular the Borgel, which eventually became Talbert, was a case manufacturer that did pioneer some of the water resistant waterproofing of watch cases, and some of their ideas and technology is actually what made it into Rolex's first oyster case designs. This lovely bunt strap, there is a gentleman I found through eBay who makes these from scratch. It's genuine leather. It feels soft and wonderful. I am just very happy with how this turned out. Okay, before I wrap up, let me see if I can crack the back of this real quick for you. This over. Let's see if I can get this open with just one hand. Oh, there we go. Okay. Throw it on the knee. See, there you go. There's our movement. Now the rotor moves a little bit if vigorously shaken, but generally I just wind this like I would a regular mechanical watch. As you can see, the plastic movement holder is not there, but the movement sits relatively nicely in the case. All right. Classic hinged case back is kind of nice as well. So there it is, my Seiko trench watch. I hope you guys like it, and I hope you take some inspiration from it. As you can see, there's a lot of possibilities outside of the typical realm of watch mod parts and watch modding. I highly recommend that you at least give a try to this method of making a dial. It's very easy. You can use any kind of paper. Thinner is obviously better because of the clearances and tolerances involved. Just stop by your local hardware store, grab yourself some different kinds of clear coat spray, high gloss, semi-gloss, whatever you want. Do a bit of trial and error. I think you'll be happy in the end. All right, guys, thanks for stopping by. Cheers. Oh, and last thing before you all go, if you want this watch, I am going to sell it. I just have too many of them. I am happy with how it turned out, but if someone else wants to throw it on their wrist, let me know. All right.